Hi, I'm Kelly Kramer.
And I'm Scott Sipker. Welcome to Honey Creek Resort in southern Iowa.
And our 20 Artists, 20 Parks edition of Iowa Outdoors. Coming up on a special edition of Iowa Outdoors.
I'm trying to sense, both through touch but also through sounds, what's happening up there.
We'll showcase the artistic inspiration Iowa State Parks provides for Iowans still today.
Who'd ever thought I'd photograph with a phone in my life? I never thought of that.
And you notice those kinds of things, you can bring it back into the studio.
And I'll write down first thoughts about what I just experienced.
We'll have all that and more.
So sit tight, Iowa Outdoors is about to begin.
Funding for this program was provided by Friends, the Iowa PBS Foundation, as well as generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa PBS.
Funding for this program was provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Quad Cities Community Foundation to support nature programming on Iowa PBS. And by the Alliant Energy Foundation. Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on Iowa PBS can be found in Iowa Outdoors Magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
The allure of the outdoors is practically the definition of indescribable. It's wondrous, inspiring, fulfilling, dangerous, and a million other words that never seem to fully capture the essence of why we love to venture outside.
In lieu of words, the Iowa State Park System is taking a different route with artistic interpretation. Throughout the course of 2019, 20 different artists were tasked with capturing the unique beauty of 20 different state parks.
From Stone State Park in the northwest to Wildcat Den in the southeast, artists spread across the state to share the beauty of Iowa. And for our first story, we'll head south to Lacey Keosauqua.
The beauty of Iowa is not hidden. In fact, much of it is labeled for all to find within the Iowa Department of Natural Resources State Park System. Those wonders are what pulled Ames artist and professor Nancy Thompson to a creek bed in Lacey Keosauqua State Park. And yet, it took Nancy practically her entire life to connect her love for creating art with the bounty of Iowa State Parks.
I've lived in Iowa all my life, and until 10 years ago, I'd hardly ever been to any state parks. So it just kind of became a goal of mine, was to visit as many of the state parks as I could.
For her setting in the Centennial Project, Nancy chose Lacey Keosauqua State Park, a site she had yet to visit, with eye-grabbing features both natural and historic. Using pastels, Nancy is creating a series of paintings of park treasures, including the beloved CCC stone bridges, Lacey Keo's campgrounds, and a triptych showcasing a Wesley Creek earth bridge, one of the park's deep wood settings.
My goal is to try to finish this in one sitting. So if I work on something that's too big, then I oftentimes will have to finish it in the studio. See what that looks like from a distance. I can tell that this piece is getting close to being finished, because I'm just kind of nitpicking at this point. Sometimes it's hard to know when one is finished. Sometimes you just have to walk away from them. A couple things that I want to do with this is I just kind of want to don't want to put a lot of detail down there, but I need to, I need to just identify this area a little better.
Nancy, who now teaches at Iowa State University's School of Design, did not start seriously learning how to paint until her early 20s while taking private lessons. From there, juggling her time as a full-time mom and squeezing in classes when she could, Nancy continued her education at Des Moines Area Community College as often as her art allowed.
I would take as many classes as I could sell artwork. Like, how much artwork I sold determined how many classes I could take. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to get through undergrad. It took me about 8 years.
Throughout her formal education, Nancy fell in love with pastels, likening it to finger painting. Now, as an educator herself, Nancy has both the passion and skill to approach painting from a creative and technical mindset.
I'm always really interested in this time of day, and in painting this time of day, the twilight hours, where suddenly we lose the ability to see color, and the camera always tricks us, right? It can't focus on all the things that the human eye can focus on at the same time, so.
As obvious as it might sound, color is incredibly important in painting. And Iowa brings surprising challenges to creating representational art, specifically the color green.
The one thing about working in Iowa state parks is that, green is hard to work with. It can be very difficult because, is it warm? Is it cool? What happens to the color when it's in shadow? All those kinds of things. And when you're out on location and you notice those kinds of things, you can bring it back into the studio. Because I want to differentiate the green in the background to the green in the foreground. It gives my painting visual depth.
Now with the project complete, Nancy and her peers' work is set for public exhibition. Throughout 2020, all the works will be on tour for art lovers and outdoor enthusiasts to see in their pocket of the state. But even long after the year comes to a close and the centennial celebration is over, Iowa State Parks will be waiting for visitors to discover the inspiration for all this work. Except, unlike the CCC bridges and park campgrounds, finding sites like Nancy's Earth Bridge triptych will take a little more exploration.
I don't think it's marked or anything. There's no signs that say that this is there. They're gonna have to find it. And it's not the easiest place to find. Or you could ask the park ranger. At this point, he definitely knows where it's at.
For many of us, the time we've spent in the Iowa State Park system has practically colored our lives. Experiences that we treasure and build off of with each successive trip into the wild.
For Carol Faber, growing up in the Sioux City area, Iowa State Parks left an indelible mark on her childhood. Now, as an Iowa State professor and working artist, she made the perfect choice to return to Sioux City's Stone State Park to mix her unique photography with her childhood memories.
So this piece is off of, in Stone State Park, and the original, I'm going to go backwards in my Photoshop file, just turn all these off and show the original piece. So that's the original photo, not too spectacular, really. I wanted to make it feel even grander, to express the emotional part of it. And I think that was my goal, giving it that kind of grand feeling.
Carol Faber is a digital artist. In place of paints and an easel, her primary tools are a digital camera and her computer. While her work is only possible through modern devices and software, the idea can be traced back to the 19th century art revolution of the Impressionists. In their day, Impressionists would use open composition, interpretations of light, and noticeable brushwork to evoke mood. And while Carol doesn't use a brush, her mouse and the software it guides do very similar work.
And this particular piece is traditional prairie, where this is the original image, and adding to that and adding the depth and color is one of the first steps I will do. And then I try to add in other parts of plants. And I kind of like some of the things where it breaks apart and it kind of makes you wonder about the edges or the surfaces or what those really are. So these are the final choices as I work through that whole piece. And that gives it more of that fabric, if you will, which isn't necessarily what you'd see, but maybe the beauty of what you'd feel seeing nature.
For Carol's role in the 20 Artists, 20 Parks program, she chose Sioux City's Stone State Park. A perfect pairing as Carol grew up in the Sioux City area, and her lifelong connection to the park provides an additional layer of subtext to her work.
School trips and picnics were the memories I had here, so the summer images fit. So this is all common area.
Stone State Park is known for its unique placement at the northern edge of the Loess Hills. That terrain provides for beautiful overlooks, hidden groves, and hillside expanses, much of which can be found by car. But even with its reputation as a drive-through park, Carol hit the trails for nearly all of her work, mixing and matching characteristics of each environment.
One of the things I probably notice the most is sky in this area, you know, a good line on the horizon. See how you feel like you're really part of the land? It almost makes you feel like you're just part of it. It reminds me of home.
To create her layered style of mosaic digital photos, Carol canvases each area and takes a multitude of pictures, looking for different elements of the landscape that help tell the story of each location. For the base photo, Carol takes a panoramic picture, giving her work a grand sense of scale. But the most interesting part of her process is how all of this work is done with her smartphone.
Who'd ever thought I'd photograph with a phone in my life? I never thought of that. It's not a purist way to photograph, that's for certain. I have great respect for photographers who can make that whole image work within the camera. And I've done that too, but there's a great deal of fun in the process of collecting. I just find that to be a better way to think about that response after the fact, because all those memories from past events come into the work then, and it gives me more time to reflect.
Even with decades of experience in the Loess Hills, the 20 Artists, 20 Parks project allowed Carol the opportunity to find time and share new treasures of Stone State Park. Now, with the project complete, she's excited to know there are still plenty of wonderful experiences left to collect.
This isn't the most scenic, right? But it was the best light and color and openness that I could find at the time I was photographing. Now it's all over the place. I'm driving and I'm thinking, I want to stop here, I want to stop here, I want to stop here. So it just, it's certainly is beautiful. I'm always awestruck, and I wish I had more time to capture it all. But this was time given, and that's a great experience to have.
Historic structures, stunning panoramic views of the rural Iowa landscape, and hidden ecological treasures draw people to Pilot Knob State Park near Forest City.
For Christopher Younelis, professional musician turned artist and student, the park became his inspiration. He combined visual art with his musical talents to explore the contrasting beauty of the nature around him.
Pilot Knob State Park near Forest City is one of Iowa's oldest state parks. Early settlers and pioneers used Pilot Knob as a navigation point as they made their way west across the prairie.
I've been to many parks in Iowa and I love them, but that was one I'd never visited before. So I was excited to see a new park.
Christopher Younelis and his wife used to tour the country making music with their band. Now he's a graduate student at Iowa State University and part of the 20 Artists, 20 Parks project commemorating the 100th anniversary of Iowa's state park system.
I decided on the spot that I would attempt to take my experience at the park and kind of channel it into a song and a video to go along with that. And then I would create a physical piece of art kind of inspired by the video itself rather than directly the park itself. So one would influence the other, was kind of my way of looking at it. This combines two different scenes. It's a scene of some natural areas of weeds and things like that, which is on the hill near the tower, and then an area of water when it was raining kind of is in the background. If I have experiences like that, I'll sit and I carry a notebook with me and I'll write down first thoughts about what I just experienced. And from that, I went home and I kind of pulled the most important things out of there, maybe words that were lyrical to me, and I started writing lyrics for the song.
His wife joins with him on the chorus of the song he wrote for the video titled All of the Green.
So much in the natural world, we are part of it here. All of the green that surrounds us, it is serene.
Yannelis visited Pilot Knob twice. The first time it was raining and overcast. The second trip was sunny and beautiful. He plays off the contrasts in his work. Yannelis shot the video with his smartphone, following his general desire to keep things simple.
And my technique for the video is much like my technique when I make art, which is a layering process. So in the video itself, I try to focus on contrasting movements, plants moving in different directions, different areas of the park, and the contrast of maybe water with the weeds growing in the corners of the park, you know, and things like that. Just see if I could create interest with that alone, kind of with the idea that if I took away the music, would it still be interesting to look at? So hopefully it is.
Summer rain means sun on the way. Summer rain means sun on the way. Summer rain means sun on the way. Summer rain means sun on the way.
In the early 1930s, about a decade after Pilot Knob was dedicated, the Civilian Conservation Corps constructed an open-air amphitheater surrounded by woods. The most notable CCC project here might be the stone tower that sits on Pilot Knob. From the top of the tower, visitors have an impressive scenic view of the surrounding park and landscape. Many of Pilot Knob's structures are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. There are hidden treasures, too, making all of it worth a visit of your own to see and discover.
I'd like it in some way maybe to spark some interest to go visit Pilot Knob and visit any of the parks, just to maybe look and see that looking at nature in a different way can be rewarding as well. Just being in nature rather than having an activity you specifically have to do, you know, just enjoying the atmosphere can be rewarding in itself.
Our state parks provide all of us with many opportunities to interact with nature, connect with our environment, and appreciate both the power and fragility of the world around us.
A kite choir is a way to experience all those things and channel the atmosphere into performance art. Firat Artem shows us his collaborative work at beautiful Lake McBride State Park. Firat Artem guides his kite through the air above the waters of Lake McBride. This isn't your average kite. It dances in the wind, attached through the line to a device Artem holds that produces sound.
It starts to vibrate in some really beautiful ways the longer the line is.
A
professor in the Department of Architecture at Iowa State University, Artem has had drawings and installations exhibited across the country and internationally.
It's really, the sound is about that tether between the kite and myself, and I need to pay attention to that. Like that's the dialogue that I'm really engaged in, you know. So there's no correct way to do this in a sense, right? Because there's no music that you have to replicate. Each variable is producing something new.
There are old traditions of singing kites in many other countries. Those often feature the sound-making instruments, or voice boxes, flying in the air with the kites. But Artem created and built his own hurdy-gurdy style instrument. It gives him more of a physical connection with the sound and the experience.
The kite isn't flying like an airplane or like a bird. It's trying to find this moment between like flying and falling. It's sort of trying to find that moment of suspension in the air. And with that, you get this suspension in the sound as well.
Lake McBride is just outside of Solon, between Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. It's named after Thomas McBride, a former professor and president of the University of Iowa, who is known as the father of conservation in Iowa. Artem says he's explored parts of Lake McBride that he wouldn't normally have gone, in order to find the right conditions for flying.
This practice is about also like understanding, it makes you look at the landscape differently, the terrain, what's around you, and read that differently. Because you know, you have to sort of say, okay, so if it's coming from the trees over there, like from over here, the wind is going to have a certain texture. It's going to, at a certain height, it's going to have a change, right? It's not just about the atmosphere, it's about also understanding the territory. Also, sounds, you know, ambient sounds.
Musicians who learn to play instruments generally have control of the sound, and given a sheet of music, that score can be played as it's written. A kite choir isn't nearly as predictable. There's limited human control, and the atmospheric conditions take care of the rest.
You have some degree of control, right? You have some agency, but that agency is shared with the agency of the wind as well, what you're listening to. So it's really a kind of a dance, an entanglement. It's not having almost full control, and it's not having almost no control, right? And I think the entanglement is, that's kind of the point of the project of the kite choir, is that it's a kind of, I call it an aesthetic practice of attunement with the atmosphere, you know. At that moment, you're kind of, when you're playing these things, you're kind of attached to it.
A lot of people get a kite up in the air by running with it. Artem says you shouldn't have to do that. He likes the pier at Lake McBride because it gives him limited space to move, and he has to really focus on what the kite is doing.
Sometimes I've been on piers, and there have been fishermen fishing off of them as well. So, you know, we're kind of doing the same thing. They're kind of, they're doing this underwater, and I'm up in the atmosphere. You're trying to sense what's out there at the tip of the line, right, at the end of the line. It's the same thing with the kite line, you know. So when the kite's up there, it becomes a way to, I'm trying to sense both through touch, but also through sounds, what's happening up there, out there, yeah, in the air.
Artem's electric hurdy-gurdy wheel works a little bit like a piano and a guitar. The kite line has rosin on it. The line bows the steel strings, and there are guitar pickups that help produce the sound that you hear. You can easily build a kite choir of your own. Artem says you can find a variety of different examples and instructions online, or invent one yourself. And whether you fly at Lake McBride or a park near you, open your mind and body to what's possible. You may develop a greater awareness and appreciation for nature and the atmosphere around you.
It's important to have these practices today, I think, you know, to care for, to hear inanimate and non-human things more
That wraps up this special 20 Artists, 20 Parks episode of Iowa Outdoors. We encourage you to take part in the Iowa State Park Centennial Celebration and create your own artistic interpretation of what the parks have to offer. If you need any inspiration, check out our extensive video archive of adventures at iowapbs.org/Iowa Outdoors.
As our episodes continue to bring you outdoor adventures over the Iowa airwaves, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for extended features and extra content. We'll leave you now with one last look at the artistic work we've showcased today and encourage all of you to get out and experience the Iowa State Parks for yourself.
Funding for this program was provided by Friends, the Iowa PBS Foundation, as well as generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa PBS.
Funding for this program was provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Quad Cities Community Foundation to support nature programming on Iowa PBS. And by the Alliant Energy Foundation. Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on Iowa PBS can be found in Iowa Outdoors Magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.